Alright, in this video I'm going to talk about my friend. I mentioned in a video recently that he was in the hospital with cancer. Now I didn't say what kind, but I did find out, I knew what kind it was, but I found out yesterday that he had passed away on Saturday, and it was pancreatic cancer. Okay, now I would be terrible at giving a eulogy for anyone, because I don't think I could reduce it down to like under 5 minutes. But so I'm going to do one for him my way, and in a bit like would be expected of either one of us. In a way, yes. I'll explain that, but it's going to be a go with the flow, and it probably won't be short. But I do want to talk about him and how I knew him and all that. I've been trying to remember how long it was, and when we first met, I think it was maybe 20 years ago. I'm still trying to remember exactly when but he and I both had so much going on in our individual lives that I doubt he would remember even. But it was back in the day when geek was a dirty 4-letter word. Okay, I've said that before in videos. And I was a geek, so was he. And yeah, we were even, might have been considered even stranger, geek as in strange, because it was rare. It wasn't that common like it is today. If you were online and you actually knew what being online meant, you were weird. You were considered very weird. And he and we did something even a little bit more, and that was we wrote online. Back then they called them online journals, online diaries. Eventually it was blogs. Now I don't know how people consider that today. It's going to be choppy too, as usual. But I don't know how people feel about these kinds of relationships these days. I went through also internet, online dating, and people really felt that those, for a while, that felt those weren't real. They thought that online dating was just online. You never met. Some people don't. I mean, I guess people have watched Catfish. And, but, people had different views back then, that you can't really have a real connection with somebody that you haven't met in person. Like I said, I don't know if people still feel that way today. I don't think they do, but, you never know. Now, I got online first in the way that people think of it in 1999. To social media. Before then it was different, but yeah, 1999. And, no wait, 1990. Okay, I'll get this right. 1990. But it was in 1999 that I ran across this site that I'm talking about. That's where he and I met. That was 1999. Okay, and basically this was an online place where people wrote their online diaries, and it no longer exists. Somebody else, the guy took it down because of the financial cost, and he wanted a job of his own or something, and pay attention to his family. And then somebody else made one, and somebody else made one with the same name, and so forth. But people that were on it, it was a lot of people. I think maybe 150,000 or more people wrote theirs online by the time that it went down. That was years later. And like I said, they kind of scattered to these other sites where they wrote blogs or did online diaries. And he and I both went to another one too. Okay, on down that line. But basically, we eventually kind of parted ways, but we didn't. I mentioned that in that video. But during this time, he and I got really close. We first read one another's, what we wrote back in probably 1999 or somewhere around there. And then we got to know one another. We would write stories about one another, because we started talking on the phone, and we had really good friendship. And he just turned 56, so he was my age, and he turned 56 right before he passed away. And So with the same age, we had a lot of things in common. He lived in a different state, not too far away, really. But we never did meet. I wanted to make that known. Is we never met in person, although we planned to a few times, but we never did. Now, that wasn't any kind of catfish thing, like I mentioned in that video, I think, because we had both seen one another online. We both spoke to one another over the phone. We saw one another on videos. I think he saw me on video. I think I had sent him one time not too long ago. I've only been making videos online for 5 years, so sometime within the past 5 years. Maybe he did. I don't know. But, so, we kind of knew one another. It wasn't a catfish, like I said, situation. And also, as I mentioned, we both went through a lot of things, and we were confidants, so we both knew what the other one was going through, highlights or whatever, maybe even more in detail, and that maybe nobody else knew about. Now, before I left to go make this video, I did write on one of the sites that he had a blog on. It was one that, you don't have your own separate blog. You join it. And I wrote on it about him passing away, but his blog was closed, and I didn't know if his family knew about it. And I don't want to, if that's practically disrespect for him, if I were to say to them, and they didn't, and to them too, if I would tell them about that and they didn't know about it, you never know who tells other people what. Okay, so I wrote on there for people who knew him that he had passed away, and try to keep it. I even said I hope I didn't step over any boundaries, but his account was closed, already privatized. So that leads me to this. I knew a lot of things about him. I don't know if any of his family knew. I went through a lot of things with, that he was going through. I helped him. I don't know, helped as in listening mainly. Helped him with, because, from his ex-wife, and he had children, and some kind of weird, it was really weird back then, because like I said, it wasn't all that common that people got online as it is, and people who read or wrote and read people's online diaries. And somebody had actually found him. That's rare too. I mean, they must have. He said it wasn't anybody who was in his house. It was some man that somehow was connected to his ex-wife, and he said there's no way that they would have known. Yeah, it was really strange. I'm having these memories come back bit by bit. But he never did figure out what was going on, and they used that in court against him, that he would write about his children on his, like I said, people call them blogs, but we called them diaries back then, on his online diary. And they used that against him. Boy, the memories are coming back. But so he kind of stopped doing that, but he and I became such friends, we started talking over the phone, so I knew a lot about what was going on behind the scenes. And a lot of things happened. I was there when, I got to see his children grow up in this kind of way. And, yeah, and his dad had dementia, my mom had dementia, and we went through that with one another, the thoughts and the feelings and all that of these kinds of things with one another. So there was a lot. And see, like I said, I don't know if any of his, surviving friends and family knew about any of this. So who's there to tell besides me? And I think about this, and I have been thinking about this. I think, this is why I said this is kind of like what he would expect me to do, is to let people, to talk about it online. I no longer write, a diary, a blog, or anything. Every blue moon I'll check in it so I don't lose it. You can lose them, So this is the next best thing. Some other things, let's see. He worked in IT, and I remember I'm not sure. I don't remember if it was that he was divorced then and then had to sell the house or what happened. But in between it, he bought an RV. Okay. And this was long before, I think, YouTube existed. You know, YouTube has its own little RV community, or big RV community. And people talk about how it was, how it is to live in an RV and all the things that come up in the dramas and all this kind of stuff. Well, this was before, like I said, YouTube existed, I think. And this man, I'm trying not to use his name. Yeah, I never use real names anyway. But he had bought an RV, but where he lived, you could only stay in these places for 2 weeks at a time. Then you had to move to another one for 2 weeks at a time. And he was, it was really bad in the divorce and all the money he had to pay out, and I don't know if he was still paying it at that time or what was going on. But he was, he was working in a job where he made good money, but with all those things, yeah, he lived in an RV. And he told so many stories, and they were hilarious stories about, he told me over the phone. We had a lot of phone conversations about these things, these kinds of anything in our lives, going on in our lives. We were confidant. And he was really hilarious. Now, these days, like I said, on YouTube, you can see a lot of videos about people living in RVs, but that was before the time, what he did. And I mean, there were so many things, and also he had a motorcycle. He went through a motorcycle phase, and I'm like, are you sure you want to do that? But he did. And if memory serves, he gave it up, his motorcycle. He had an accident on it, and I think it was something about a slick, curvy road. And he sold that. He sold the RV, bought a house, moved into it, and then, over time he met the woman he married last year, and they dated and everything. And I mentioned in that video that that's when I kind of, went more into the background and, give him space. He had his girlfriend and everything. And so I went through a lot of things that he went, I was there for him, I should say, when he went through all these things. And so much more. And he was there for me too. Like I said, he was cyber stalked, but it was somebody he actually knew in person. And I was stalked by somebody who was an ex-boyfriend. Well, he was a boyfriend turned stalker, is the way I put it. And my friend was there. He, I remember calling him, telling him, because this guy was actually on TV. It's a long story. And he was the only person I ever told. And he was like, you really need to do something. And I'm thinking that might be where another part where we kind of drifted. I knew that I needed to do something, but this guy was a stalker, and he was threatening me and my family. So he was threatening to kill us all, put it that way. If I did anything, he would kill them, or he would send people out to kill them. This kind of thing. This guy is no longer alive, by the way. The guy that stalked me, he's no longer alive. He passed away 2010, I think. So anyway, that may have been something that, was, he was very worried about me, and I was stuck in a situation I didn't know what to do. And I think that's when we had thought about meeting. I was going to go to the state where he was, because I was moving around at the time. I was trying to get away from this guy and the one that was stalking me, and instead I came back to this area. So a lot of it was my fault. I mentioned that, a lot of it. And but like I said, he was there for me. I was there for him. And some of the things were really funny, and some of them were not so funny. We used to write, like I said, I think I mentioned that, write stories about one another that were really funny, and people knew that we were friends, and they thought it was so funny. It was a community, okay, back then, and they thought it was hilarious. They couldn't wait to see what we wrote next about one another. Yeah, I'm much better at writing, by the way. If feeling up to it, I'm much better at writing than I am at doing videos. Much better. Moving on with it. But when I found out, I knew that he had cancer and that prognosis wasn't that great. And I saw the picture of him in the hospital, and yeah, he just had that look. And I know some people might argue with me that nobody has that look, but yeah, they do. My experience. You might have a different one. But I've seen it too many times before, really. So, I had that, I pretty much knew it wasn't going to be much longer. But still, when I found out yesterday, just yesterday, last night even, I was, couldn't feel anything. I guess I'm still kind of stunned. I am. Just, even though I had known, it was kind of like my dad. We knew my dad was going downhill, going down, and we expected it, but at the same time, when it happens, it's just such a shock, and you might be in shock for a little while. Yeah. So finding out about it, that they had written something online, and they said they're going to do some kind of, I guess, what do you call them, a visual eulogy? Something like that. And so I'm waiting to see that. And like I said, I don't know, I said in the other video, I think, I don't know if they even know about me at all. But I did finally, send on both two of the posts, I sent, some condolences, basically, that kind of thing. But I don't know if they know me, and I just would feel really uncomfortable stating that he and I have known one another all these years, because I don't know if, like I said earlier, if anybody in his family knew any of this. Now, really, about his online diary, his, these different things he went through. So, I don't know. I would feel uncomfortable, because they'd say, oh, he had a secret life, and that could, now would be, no time would be the right time. To me, it's just me. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. Maybe other people feel this way. I'm sure some people do. Many people, maybe. But so I'm just keeping to where, I don't know if any of them knew anything about me, seriously. Now, I knew so much about them. I knew about his, like I said, from his ex-wife to his children, to watch them grow up, to his extended family and his new wife. I knew all about them. They might not know about me. So, but one of the things that hit me is I might not ever know anything more about them, and that's kind of a loss there too, because I saw his kids grow up. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, after, in 20 years, say around 20 years, yeah, and then suddenly they're no longer there. You see? Yeah, and then there was the next generation, because I know one of his daughters had a child, so it's going to get noisy behind me. So I should wrap this one up. I might have more videos to talk about him, once the shock kind of wears off, maybe. And but I need to wrap it up anyway, because I think it's close to 20 minutes. I don't know how many minutes I can do on a video and actually upload it and all that, so I should wrap it up. But yeah, that's where I am on this now, and I haven't searched. I know where the city and state that he lived in. I haven't searched for his obituary yet. I was thinking about it, but I still say there's nothing I want to, I just wouldn't feel comfortable, really, and wouldn't feel comfortable letting his family know who I am. Okay, because they might not have known, and I don't, the whole secret life kind of thing, and yeah, that's not a time for it, so never will be. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up, and I'll talk to y'all in another video. And by the way, I probably will be changing, definitely, the way I use this channel. I had been thinking about this, and it could be that some part of it was because of knowing that he was dying, that, helped me to, I want to move out of all the bad things and move into more of a mixture of, the total all-around life. Too much noise. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up.